Testing.
Testing.
Go. Let's call it to order. Dang, dang, dang. Isn't there a song that goes something like that now? Welcome to the City Council regularly scheduled meeting on August 26, 2024. The time's 5:30 p.m. We are at 10 West State Street in the City Hall Council chambers. With those, we're called to order. With those available, join us in the pledge. Roll call, please.
Fonseca.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Lottiehoff.
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Very good. Full house. Nice to have that again here. Here's the caveat about public comments. Members of the public may make comments on any item that's not on the agenda at this time. Take the microphone in hand, state your name and address, limit your comments to 3 minutes unless longer is authorized by the mayor. Direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and the mayor and councilors shall not engage in discussion or debate on those items, else we might run afoul of the open meetings laws. The microphone is open.
Oh, I don't see a rush. Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. Approximately a week to a week and a half ago, the Marshalltown Police Department's Facebook page posted that they had 11 loose dogs. That was on their page. And later that afternoon, I saw another one, a pit bull. That's 12 loose dogs, and I'm sure at least a couple of chances to have a couple of people bitten. They weren't, or at least they weren't reported. This is a problem with the potential to become a much bigger problem. The solution? I don't have a clue. Not unless you make stiffer penalties for the first offense, or, I would like to know where these loose dogs were and what their breeds were, but I don't have a solution. According to dogbite.org, each year an American has a 1 in 50 chance of being bitten by a dog. Homeowners insurers paid out $1.1 billion in liability claims related to dog bites and other dog-related injuries in 2023. Each day, nearly 1,000 people are treated in hospital emergency rooms for non-fatal dog bite injuries. Approximately 4.5 million dogs bites occur each year in the United States, and 1 out of those 5 become infected. The average cost of a dog bite-related hospital stay is $18,200. This is about 50% higher than non-related hospital stays due to the infection and reconstructive surgery. The probability of a bite resulting in a complex wound was 4.4 times higher for pit bulls compared to other breeds. The odds of an off-property attack are 2.7 times greater. Dogbite.org also says their data is consistent with other things about an intervention with being more than 3 times with a pit bull than any other breed. According to Dogbite.org, what is most alarming observation is when attacks come from unfamiliar dogs, the pit bull was responsible for 60 to 63% of these injuries. That's all on that. On another subject, and I truly don't understand this, and I will try and do more research on this, but looking at the consent agenda on the agenda thing, it's like there's a whole lot of stuff in there that we don't get to know about. You just approve the consent agenda and everything that's included in that goes by the wayside. Like last time there was something about buying a pickup, and the public that's watching doesn't know that. They don't run to get a consent agenda. So I'm going to do some more investigating, and I'm going to see if I can't do away with that consent agenda. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. I just wanted to thank everybody and the public for their cooperation and patience during the State Street project. We do currently tonight have the temporary path between the parking lot and this building. We are waiting till tomorrow morning to tear that out, and we'll be putting on some more pavement on this side of the road for that parking lane. During that time, we'll have a pedestrian crossing using the Center Street crossing. And then when we look a little bit into the future for our next council meeting, please stay tuned to Facebook and news posts. we may have this sidewalk tore out right here in front of the Park and Rec entrance and be funneling people through City Hall. So please pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, on to item E, Mayor, Council, and Administrator comments. I always like to switch those, and I wait until now. I should do that on the Tuesday that we meet before we put these agendas together. Should we do years of service? I see that we have a long-term library, 2 library folks here tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Sarah Rosenblum, Library Director. I am pleased to recognize 2 important work anniversaries for library staff. Obviously, you can see I only have one person with me. Joa LaVille could not be here tonight due to work commitments, but I'm sure you're all aware of Joa's 25-year contributions to not only the library, but to a number of our community partners that serve youth, our schools, and our diverse residents. Joa is recognized as a leader statewide in youth services and the best practices for serving diverse library users, and we're very lucky to have Joa at our library. Ann Ralston is a valued member of our youth services team. We are celebrating Ann's long service to the Marshalltown Public Library, especially our families and youth. Some of them have known her from her earlier position at Head Start. Ann has been involved in a variety of tasks at the library. At this point in her career, she has specialized knowledge of our picture book collection. She has a great ability to match a reader to its book, and we have over 8,000 picture books. Ann never hesitates to pitch in when needed. The library is open 55 hours a week, 7 days a week, and with only 18 hours of janitorial coverage, Ann is always the first to pitch in to help with keeping our library clean and inviting space. Ann is not only appreciated by the public she works with, but is very beloved by her coworkers. She always goes out of her way to make someone feel special on their birthday by making treats, especially carrot cake, and sending a card around. Congratulations, Ann.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It's an honor to work for you. Thank you. Oh, that's very, very nice. Turn it around and look at our pictures. Yes.
One more.
One more? Thank you.
Thank you again. Any comments by the councilors tonight?
Your Honor, May?
You may.
Yes, this past week we had the movie park in the park at 13th Street, and I'd like to thank Jeff Hubbard and Lily Mays Canny and Legacy Realty for putting on an excellent time. Lots of people were there, had a good time. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else?
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
So this weekend, the Mexican consulate came to Marshalltown to provide mobile services to our community members. I was there volunteering, and they were booked up. We do not have a consulate here in Iowa. The nearest one is Omaha and Chicago, which is great. So it's really a good thing that they stopped by here in Marshalltown. They'll be in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids at other times this year. And so that was Saturday. And on Sunday, we had the back to school event where free haircuts were provided to the kids. A big shout out to Maria Gonzalez at the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Luisa Ortega for hosting the event at her venue, and all the service providers who came out. They provided eye exams for the kids, immunizations, physicals, school supplies, free haircuts, backpacks, and personal hygiene items as well. So it was a really good time. It was hot, but it was a really good thing for our community. There was actually another back to school event at the Black Iron Barbell location as well. So there were 2 events, which was great to, provide it for all the students here in our town and all the kids in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. The paper did nice coverage of that with all the pictures. It was fun to see. Anyone else? Okay, well, for my comments, I've got three things. One, we got drawings and paintings in from our sister city members, the children in our Ukraine sister city. Some are on the table there, some are up here. They're really nice pieces of art, and a lot of you just keep volunteering for different assignments. So because Mike got the Ukraine families here in town, he's involved in the Ukraine committee. Carrie Barr has volunteered to help on that too, and the current plan, but it may change, is to put them in the library, let people see them, and then we would like to auction them off and send the proceeds to the city for the war relief thing, is my understanding. Is that right, Mike?
Yes. The kids do not expect the paintings to come back. And so the plan is right now, and we're still dealing with the details, is have a display at the public library. The public library, of course, stepped right up and said, hey, we can do that. And then we may have a silent auction kind of thing, possibly a live auction for these. Any money that's raised will go toward to send back to the Ukraine, to our sister city. The kids are in real need of art supplies. So we can help them out a little bit and get some really good paintings in the deal. So we're looking at probably the next month or two. So if you just stay tuned, we'll be providing details.
Thank you, Mike. Another thing I want to mention is that the NEAT task force met. That we had some joking around about whether it was going to be called NARC or NEAT, and it's NEAT, the Nuisance Abatement Enforcement Task Force. And Greg has agreed to chair that committee. He also went down, it was Indianola, where you spent a day to learn about nuisance abatement and things like that, right, Greg?
Good Cities had a conference on what other cities have done to be successful in their nuisance abatement. We had a good team out there for the first time. We're just barely got our toes touching the water, so I'll give you further updates later.
And I know the committee took over the assignment to look at the loaning closet or loaning shed or whatever it's going to be for tools for people.
Yeah, so one of the few decisions made was there's going to be additional looking at the tool loan program and how that could be effective.
Very good. Thank you. Then the third thing I want to mention, the last thing, was that I've been getting some reaction from people in the downtown area. Now that we've just about got State Street done, a lot of people are worrying about what effect it's going to have on Main Street. And one of the ideas is to fix the alley that's right behind us here and turn this alley into something similar to the alley between the record store and the Tremont, where it's lit at night. It's more inviting. You feel safer walking down it, because people will need to be parking in areas here to be able to get to Main Street on this side of Center Street. So there's a meeting tomorrow morning with some people that are trying to generate interest in that. And I just thought I'd throw that out to the public. And I know the business owners that have places on Main Street are worried about what we're going to do. And I want them to know the Central Business District's going to be represented there. The City Council will be represented there. Heather and our engineers and the contractors are going to do everything we can to minimize the impact on those owners. They will end up with a street that's going to look really nice like this one does, but it will be a headache while we're undergoing construction there. Okay, that was it for my comments too. Let's go on to the consent.
I have a question. All I want to know is where the meeting that you're going to have, where it's going to be.
I'm not sure it's open to the public, and I'd have to look up on my calendar to see where that meeting is tomorrow. Sorry. And for those of you at home, the question was, where is that meeting about the alley tomorrow? Okay, let's go on to the consent agenda. Does anybody move to?
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Very good, that carried. And before going on to the next one, a lot of these consent agenda things do have memos attached, so anybody with a computer can see them in advance and drill down a little bit to see what they are. And if there are questions about it, you can always call the city councilor or the city clerk or the mayor to find out what it is. And every once in a while, somebody removes those items from the agenda, so there's full discussion. On to item G, motions. What's our first one?
motion to approve a 5-day alcohol license with outdoor service for Lucky Wife Wine Slushies for Oktoberfest, September 26th to the 29th.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Thank you. Discussion? Other than the interesting name, I wonder who came up with that name.
Yes, Your Honor, this will be a second vendor that will be participating in the Oktoberfest festivities, and they're applying for a 5-day license.
Okay, any questions or discussion up here?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I've met Corey and Gloria, two of the flea market or town events that I was at in July. They were also there, and I guarantee you, those that like wine and like slushies are going to love this stuff. They, the two events I've seen them sell at, they've been huge sellers, and if it's as hot as it was today, they'll sell out. So I think people will enjoy this. It'll be fun.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
That carried, and I'll bet I'm not the only one that thinks of Ella Hoop every time we vote on these. You know? All right, what's our other motion? That carried.
motion to approve a 5-day Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service for the Midnight Ballroom Rodeo at the fairgrounds on October 5th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Luisa Ortega is hosting a rodeo on October 5th at the fairgrounds.
Any comments, questions up here or out there? Usually not. Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
That carried as well. Luisa's here in case somebody did have any questions, but Luisa, you just keep doing the events, inside, outside, fireworks. We just appreciate what you do here. Yeah. All right, on to resolutions. What's our first one?
Resolution 2024-187, accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the Marshalltown West High Street and South Sixth Street Intersection Improvement Project, STR 24001, in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $62,702.20 to Construct, Inc.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Good evening, Heather Thomas. We're very pleased with the bids we received. We had 7 bids on this project. Our engineer's cost estimate was $90,900. We had bids ranging from $105,000 down to Construct's bid of $62,702.20. We are recommending award. A reminder, this is a 25 working day contract. It will not start until Marshalltown Waterworks is ready for it to start. They need to get their water main on the north side of High Street all the way to the 6th Street intersection, and there's still a little bit of a section left that they need to do. So it's probably going to be at least a couple weeks, if not longer, before this project starts. As this project is going on, 6th Street will remain open, but the High Street portion of the intersection will be closed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I've got one, but it was a different issue, so I know I'm out of order. But at the Unity Point Foundation board meeting today, I was asked, when will any idea what the Main Street timeline is going to be right now? And I'm sure you get asked that a lot.
If we're referring to the Main Street project, that'll be from Center to 3rd Ave. Currently, that is in design with the anticipation, if we're able to acquire the funding through council designation, that the bid would be early next spring, potentially starting next spring on the Center Street portions of it, and Main Street would be potentially late 2025 or maybe starting in 2026.
Thank you. You just answered a question a lot of people have been posing. Now back to the real issue. Is there any discussion about this resolution up here or out there? Let's call the roll.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
There were guys working today in a heat index which had to be 105, 110 in a hole right out here from Construct. And they were still nice enough to greet me as I'm walking by. And glad to have that stay local. So that carried on to the next one.
Public hearing and resolution 2024-188, approving plans, specification, form of contract, and cost for the Riverview Park Improvement Project, PRK 23001, in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa.
And I'll declare the public hearing is open right now, and time is 5:50 PM. I'll bet you didn't get any written comments.
No, Your Honor.
It is time for public comments before staff review. Any public comments? Which always seems odd to go before staff review, but nobody's standing up, so now staff review. Jeff.
Jeff Hubbard, Park and Rec Director. I just kind of wanted to share kind of where we are today. I assumed everybody was up to speed on some things, but we have some new council members, so just wanted to share. We kind of did an overall master plan, starting with gathering of data in 2022, with some design work in 2023. I think the entire project came to over like $10 million. Some of that was $3 million for the campground, $3 million for the event space area and amphitheater, but those were all future phases. So phase one was kind of to deal with the lagoon. And we thought we were going to need to do a total overhaul of lagoon to the tune of $2.5 million, and then found out that the pond to the south of the park now will hold the 100-year flood water, so we don't need to expand the lagoon. If you can see where my arrow is, we were going to take all that area to the east and make it bigger to hold that, so we don't need to do that anymore. So I came to council with some recommendations to do some other things, and this is what phase one is going to be. So we are going to still do some improvements to the lagoon, but down by the weir area, or where the water would go to and from the south pond underneath the road to the lagoon, it would stop the water from going back into the pond if it shouldn't go there. A new bridge going across the lagoon. Then up here to the north, we're going to be adding 4 pickleball courts. And this drawing won't show up, but the 4 pickleball courts will actually be where the tennis courts is now. There'll be an AstroTurf volleyball court like what we just did at Kiwanis, and then the basketball court will stay where it is. All of that is going to have lights, so it'll be lit up until the park closes at 11:30, so you can play any of those sports later. And then a new playground at Reunion Hall. Any questions about that, why that's up?
It is time for council comments.
I got one more thing.
Okay.
So we also did a public input of some campground or some playgrounds there at Reunion Hall, and this was our winning bidder, which came from Midwest Sports. I'll go through a couple. So the tan area is actual mulched area, and that's kind of a climber, kind of more adventurous area. The rest is all poured rubberized surfacing. The green areas with the mounds. So there's kind of an overall one. It'll have that design work in it. The apparatus to the left is a kind of a teeter-totter that wheelchairs can ramp into and slide around on or rock back and forth with. There's a couple other elements to the right, a 4-person kind of teeter-totter that you can access, so get out of a wheelchair into those seats and play as well. Then just some close-up images of those other features, and there'll be some paneling and stuff that also will provide some like musical and sensory type things for other kids. So just wanted to share that's what's going to be going in to replace Reunion Hall.
Thanks, Jeff. Let me ask for questions or comments up here.
Your Honor,
Yes.
this is a comment. I was utilizing the compost facility Saturday, and Riverview was full. People playing soccer, volleyball, other sports. I couldn't even begin to put a number of people, but it was great to see people utilizing that park. And with these enhancements, it should only make that a further draw. So very excited for this. Thank you.
With 4-year-old and 2-year-old granddaughters, we're spending a lot of time in places like playgrounds now, and it's fun to see.
We also have added a solar panel dog light at the park. that lights up most of the small dog area and about a third to a half of the large dog area. So people are able to access that later. And I'm sure when we get to our 5 o'clock sundowns, it'll get used a lot here in the late fall.
Which reminds me, this lady to my right here, her family was taking advantage of the lights in the pickleball court right behind us.
That was a big push from Councilman Thompson, and we were able to get that done with some city funds, donation funds we had, and our city building maintenance department. So I think it'll get used a lot too.
Very good. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
Jeff, with this, this park, are people, like, would it have enough space, at the Mega 10, how, parents can walk around the playground, maybe exercise around, would that be available? This one, is there enough space?
There is pretty much a trail around the lagoon right now. You could
Okay.
walk around the lagoon by going across the bridge to community building. You would walk up a gravel road kind of by the campground and then go up along the trail system behind the lift station, and then you could come back down and there's a trail on the east side of it. So there is
yeah.
trail around it now.
Okay. I meant like watching the kids while
Oh.
you, like, exercise while you can watch the kids, because the one over there you could kind of, be around.
There's
and still
sidewalk
watch.
all the way around
Okay.
the playground,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Are we doing a horseshoe court there too?
I forgot that, thank you. So that is a bid alternative. I'm not sure if it's going to fit into the budget, but I wanted to put in two courts and horseshoe courts, but then we realized they probably need to be handicap accessible. So where they're located will be a pretty large chunk of sidewalk to get there to make it accessible. But I think right now, according to the engineer's estimates, we should be able to pull that off there by the log cabin, and they would go where the old volleyball court is that's there right now. Forgot about that one.
I think, we had this conversation with someone that was, I believe, from Garwin, and he is like a national champion, and I didn't realize that horseshoes was still a really big thing. And it's not just cheap, just throw some stakes in the ground and throw horseshoes.
Yeah.
There's a whole competitive side of it.
So these are pretty nice ones, and I think we do have room to expand them if the demand gets there and people want to kick in some more money, we could add some more courts.
Thank you.
Your Honor. So do you think we're going to do any lagoon work at all in the future? Because it's just not a very attractive lagoon as it sits now. So I think we're going to have to do some dredging in the future, aren't we, to make it look better?
So that means we have multiple phases. We have money in the out years of the budget that could do that. The roads are kind of in disrepair and could use some improvements. So I think that there will be a phase two. My recommendation would probably not be to spend it on the campground, but things like the lagoon and roads and things that would get more use.
Disc golf really is pretty popular every time I go out to the compost facility.
We're working on getting new signs that would have a QR code that'll take you to a drone video of each of the holes and then where to go for the next hole. And then also sponsors, all the holes have sponsors on it, so there'll be a QR code for that sponsor as well to take you to their business.
Very good. Any other council comments? Otherwise, we'll declare the public hearing closed at 5:58 PM. Are we calling for a motion?
I move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols? Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
That carried as well. On to our next item.
Public hearing and resolution 2024-189, providing for the conveyance and transfer of title of the east half of 510 East Main Street from the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to RMB Cooperative.
It's 5:59 PM starting the public hearing that is open. Did you get any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Any public comments at this time? And staff review.
Yes, Your Honor, the council approved the sale of this parcel on January 24th, and the quitclaim deed was recorded with the county, and they found that the legal description was only for the west half of the lot, and so this proceeding is to add the addition of the east lot, so the entire parcel is conveyed.
Doesn't sound too controversial to me. Any council comments about this one? I'll declare the public hearing is closed at 5:59 and call for a motion on this one.
For approval?
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Very good. On to ordinances. Looks like we have 2 tonight.
Ordinance 15090 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 157, Land Subdivision Regulations, third reading.
Is there a motion to?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's have discussion.
Don't have anything to add on this one.
And so, any further discussion up here or questions up here? Otherwise, any public discussion on this one?
Just as a review, Your Honor,
Okay.
this particular amendment is to address some of the private streets and some of the turning radiuses that are necessary to blend some of the zoning with some of the development that's going through right now.
Thank you. That does help to have that framed. Appreciate it. Let's call the roll.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Carried, and on to our second and last of the ordinances.
Ordinance 15091 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 156, Zoning for Parking, Loading, and Stacking, first reading.
I'd call for a motion first.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And now discussion. John?
John Boston, 1710 Rainbow Drive, Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commission. 156 goes along with the discussion of Chapter 72 that's later on the agenda. These are the changes that we made in coordination with those Chapter 72 changes. We totally reviewed the maximums and minimums on the parking spaces and changed a number of the maximums. We found some of them that were just plain not needed. Some of them were way understated. It would really restrict businesses as they were developed from developing today. A good example is all of the Quick Stars and Casey's was only going to be allowed about 20 to 30% of the parking spaces that they have today. So we adjusted those. We also discovered that in this chapter, one thing that we thought was obvious is the parking or the driveway in front of your garage door should be counted as a parking spot. But for some reason, this language said it was a not. So we fixed that. We also found out that the size of a parking space was different in the code in different places. So we standardized it to, I believe, 9 feet wide and 18 feet long. Some places it was 20 feet long, some places it was 9.5 feet wide. So we fixed that throughout the ordinances. We also, on the table that shows the maximum and minimums to make it clear, those maximums and minimums are external parking places. We've never counted the internal space in a garage or an accessory building as a parking space, because as we all know, we know a lot of people that can't get their cars in their garages. So we didn't want that counted in the minimums. So that's pretty much all I have for 156.
Let's open up for discussion up here first then.
I'd like to comment and thank you, John, and the whole zoning committee for all the exciting reading you get to do.
We had a lot of help on this too, so I'll discuss that a little bit when we get to 72. So
I was going to close with, you picked a heck of a time to re-up another year for zoning with this and the solars and that sort of thing. Just know you're
we've got
appreciated.
more coming.
Anybody else? Okay, well, first readings, give time for people to study it and talk at the next one. But yeah, I haven't invited public comment yet.
Good evening. I'm Your Honor and Counsel Julie Miller, 30 East Main Street, Marshalltown. I was here a few weeks ago talking about parking, and I guess I had a wide array of discussion on concerns for people in my building. Tonight I wanted to focus on the 2:30 to 5:30 a.m. No parking on Main Street and the side streets. I, 9 days ago, got a phone call from my tenant at 4 in the morning that there were bats in the apartment. I came down, and within 20 minutes, I was flashlighting trying to get the bat out, which is not fun. But I got a parking ticket in front of my building at 4:20. It seems excessive when there's absolutely not a soul downtown. I was down there on business trying to handle something, but it led me to a second question, and that is, I'm not sure when the ordinance was put into place or exactly why it was put into place, because I find if it was for a snow ordinance of some kind, and how long ago it was put in, 15 days out of 365, and the rest of downtown is completely shut down for people like myself, and for safe parking, as I mentioned before, like beside the east side of the courthouse, where tenants and myself can park under lights and see our vehicle at night. I just don't think there's that many downtown people housing that needs to be forward on the streets and the side streets, because they do have parking behind their buildings, where in my situation we don't. And I feel like if you're down there, and I know our police know this, it's just like a desolate downtown. Absolutely nobody. So at 4:20, when I got this, they might figure that I'm down handling something, but instead I got a ticket within 20 minutes. I guess I found that a little excessive, which made me want to come and discuss this further. That I don't know when it went into place, this 2:30 to 5:30, and I don't know if it's open for you to tell me, or if anyone knows, but the downtown is literally a ghost town, and there's nothing there. So I don't know when we went from some parking to absolutely no parking. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
I'd be surprised if there's anybody up here that, if you can, yeah.
That restriction is part of Chapter 77, so that would have to be something we review if the council wanted to consider removing that. I tried to do a little research on that restriction, and there was restrictive parking on Main Street ever since 1931. That's just changed over the years. I couldn't locate exactly when that time frame was put into place, but there have been restrictions. The current code does allow the city clerk to issue permits to residents of the buildings or owners of the buildings that need to have the parking available. So that's certainly something that we can do, is issue a permit for anybody that's living there.
Probably applied to horses back then. Wow.
Can I add, Your Honor?
For those at home, it'll be easier for them to hear you.
So a permit would be awesome, and I appreciate that, especially for those that do live in the building. And I know the neighboring building, Jeff Sims, will have 3 apartments as well, and he may want that flexibility. But again, on the ghost town at night, I'm not sure if it's necessary. I guess I'm at the mindset where could we just lift that part of the parking and see how it goes with not having a restriction on overnight parking, with starting at maybe 8 a.m. that it rotates, or whatever time's best, you guys know better. But it just still seems like, I'm not sure why that ordinance is in place. A parking permit is great, but I still feel like it takes away the flexibility of other downtown people. Like, I came down to get a bat and got a ticket in 20 minutes. The officer was very kind when I called. He said, I enforce code. I don't create code. So you'd have to go to your council. I said, thank you, I understand. So there'll be other people coming downtown along Main Street handling problems with buildings that doesn't have that pass that will get a ticket. And I just think it seems excessive. Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Julie, I wonder if it's the reason for it, and I know it's old, was just to make sure that nobody parked their car permanently, because it is tough for ticket enforcement or parking enforcement officers to tell which cars have been there. And I don't know, Chief Tupper, if you have any color on how they enforce that. I know in the old days they used to take chalk and draw it, and then I think maybe that's how it came into effect. We might need to look into it.
And towing, I mean, and the chief can probably speak better on this, but I think if there's an offender or a car that sat for longer than 24 hours even, tow them. I mean, by all means, an offender should be towed. But the average citizen, business owner downtown shouldn't have to be, I guess, in this situation because of someone who, just blatantly leaves the vehicle. That should be under the 3-hour rotation that we all know we have to move our vehicle. We can't just leave it. Or you park in the long-term places like Jay or wherever.
So parking enforcement's a difficult issue for us. At different times, I've gotten a lot of pressure to enforce parking codes. And then when we do, people get mad. So I'm guessing that time restriction probably has something to do with cleaning streets and parking lots as well. You'd have to talk to the street department about that. So you guys would all be heroes if you told the cops not to enforce that anymore. So if that's what you want, that's fine. But it's on the books, and we're trying to do the best we can, and we have a lot of dueling responsibilities. So you let us know what you think we should do.
So is it possible to track cars that are staying, say, 36 hours? I mean, what techniques do you guys have? Is it just memory?
Well, I'm not going to
write it down?
We have some techniques that I'm not going to discuss because then people will come up with counter techniques. But we do our best. It's not as easy as you might hope, but we do our best.
I'm reminded of living in Iowa City for 7 years where they had Das Boot. Oh, man.
Yeah. So anyway, you let us know what you think we need to do.
I don't think that planning and zoning has enough to do, so why don't we assign them the task to look at it?
Well, that is a totally different chapter, so right now we're doing the first reading on chapter 156. So
Your Honor.
that restriction's in chapter 77.
Your Honor, if I may, I would suggest that we bring 77 up with some changes. The research I did on this, trying to figure out some stuff for Julie, was the only thing I could guess as, we used to have 10 to 12 bars downtown, and maybe they wanted all the cars off the street when the bars closed. I don't know. I'm not as old as John Boston, so maybe he remembers. But anyway, I'd be more than happy to, bring 77 up. We'll move on to that chapter and figure out what we can do. Because as we want more apartments downtown after we redo Main Street, this is going to become a bigger issue. So we need to figure out a way to make it convenient for the tenants and the owners to be able to park in front of their buildings in a limited time, obviously.
And safe to get from a vehicle to the building.
And I would encourage maybe staff or whoever's going to look into this, talk to other cities. We cannot be the only town with this problem.
So I forgot to introduce myself, Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department, but I would also like to add that from a public safety standpoint, we discourage people from driving home drunk, and so I would rather people park their cars, quite honestly, but then I get complaints from people about cars being parked. So just let us know what you think we should do.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Just kind of why this turns into kind of complicated thing. I know that there's homeless people that live in their cars, and they're always looking for places to be overnight. If you go to Walmart, you can park your camper overnight, your semis overnight. So people are always looking for spots. So somehow being able to help you out with avoiding uptown at night turning into something that we really don't want. And then causing more problems for the police who love parking issues. So I think we got to think about this pretty carefully, other than just open it up.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Call to order. This is an important topic, but it's not on the agenda, and I don't know how we've gotten this far at this point.
Yeah, it was because it's a different chapter. I was tempted to say it wasn't germane, but I'll let one more comment go.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think the homeless situation that Mr. Lottehoff brought up, would be fairly minimal and could be easily identified. And so that would be my take on that. It's not opening up a very big can of worms, in my opinion, and I'm not sure they would want to park downtown. It's very, very open, so, thank you.
Okay, let's call it to order. Any other public discussion on this one? We can call the roll, and there'll be 2 more readings unless the third one gets waived by the second one. So give us time to look at it and give input.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca, yes, Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Very good. That concludes our discussion, and now we have some things to talk about in closed session if there.
Your Honor, we have a discussion item.
I missed the discussion item.
Chapter 72, parking rules
Oh, I
amendment.
did. Yep, sorry. I thought we were talking about parking enough.
Okay, Chapter 72. Remember, this is the item that the council sent to Planning and Zoning to review and send back to you, so you're getting it back. A number of people have helped on this. Heather spent a lot of time, helped with language. Cindy, Alicia went through coordination with other ordinances. Legal reviewed it. It's pretty significantly been through. I've read it at least 30 times, if once. We renumbered and expanded and updated the entire chapter. We added definitions and revised some of the definitions that were there. We updated general prohibitions to match what we think the city is doing now and what the city should be doing. We completely updated the residential parking section. Before, it was residential and business combined, yet business was only mentioned twice in the entire ordinance. So now it's 2 separate sections. Residential is 1 section, I believe the 200 section, and business is the 300 section. And remember, we approached this from the point of view that businesses in many cases are right next to residential. So we looked at it from that point of view. So you'll have to take a look at it and decide if you want to make further changes to it, or if you have any questions, I'll take those.
Thank you. Any questions up here or comments?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Hey, John, when you guys took all this time, and kudos to you for doing this, and you've got this rewrite, did you go back and look at where it conflicts with 156 for new development? Did you?
That's why 156E was done in coordination with
Guys want to make sure
72.
that, yeah, you're sure you caught everything. Everything.
Well, I think we caught everything. One of the things we did is instead of putting the number of parking spaces in 72, we referred 72 to 156 table. So
Then
they're only one place in the city. We've had problems in the city before with having the same thing specified in 2 different ordinances.
Then the question that came up this weekend, when I talked to several people about this discussion item for tonight, do you feel everything that your committee and Heather and everybody that had input, is it enforceable? Because once again, you know, here we are, we have ordinances, but if they're not enforceable, or if we're not going to enforce them, I mean, what are we doing?
Well, we believe they're enforceable. It's just whether the people are in place to enforce them and have the time to enforce them. You know, the big topic, of course, that I think brought this up was unoperable, unlicensed vehicles. You know, we put that in both residential and business. They have to be operational, they have to be licensed. Now, granted, there are some businesses that have vehicles that obviously are not in that category. If you're running a body shop, a salvage yard, you know, because you're going to get a body shop that brings a vehicle in, that comes off a wrecker, and it can't move till they drag it in and start tearing it apart and fixing it. But that's pretty obvious to me. We're talking about, just a general, maybe a mechanic's shop.
You're talking
got a
about,
junk car sitting there that needs to be moved.
you're talking about home occupation, illegal business where they're
Well,
doing that. I
It's not a
understand.
home occupation if it's related to vehicles, because our home occupations don't include anything related to vehicles. So,
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Heather, I know you started up here. Do you want to add anything to the discussion? You don't need to.
I was just going to highlight maybe a couple of the outcomes and what's changed since we were here in March. And then also, I think Alicia would like to go over a little bit and get some clarification on a permit or a penalty fee. As I go through the clean version of this, the current version, a couple of things I wanted to point out is previously we did not have good definitions in either Chapter 72 or Chapter 156 about really defining where a corner yard is, a front yard, a side yard that is also a front yard on the side because it's on a corner lot, and rear yard. So that has all been defined in here. As John mentioned, we did take some of these and refer them directly back to 156. Previously, Chapter 72 enforced how many vehicles could be on a property. And at that time, it said the maximum vehicles on a property were 2 vehicles in a side and rear yard. And so instead of having that language in here, what we've done is on the total parcel of a residential, we referred them to the new development standards that are in 156 that would allow for a single family to have up to 6 vehicles on their property. Obviously, again, all on permitted driveway surfaces. They still cannot be parked in grassed areas. But those were some of the main changes. As we talked through this last time about parking over 24 hours, we did leave that still the restriction, so nobody can park on a street or an alley over 24 hours. But there is some language that the planning and zoning added to here that provided for some temporary services. So if you have a contractor working, those kind of things, and they're there for a short temporary service but are actively doing work, that is now allowed. That one, in my mind, could be difficult from an enforcement standpoint, but that was planning and zoning's recommendation.
Your Honor, do you want questions now or when she gets all done?
All done.
Parking in alleys, that is, as we discussed in March, we do have the ability now to restrict parking in alleys and blocking alleys, but do give them a 2-minute short service option. That is specifically related to the downtown improvements and making sure that we can maintain traffic flow downtown while those projects are going on. The Planning and Zoning Commission liked what you guys ended with for total surfacing allowed by driveways and driveway approaches. So hard surface with the exception of a gravel allowed if it's directly off of a gravel road or a grassed alley. Probably the one about the maximum number of vehicles, I did mention, the 6 vehicles allowed on residential. The 2 caveats that are part of that is that any vehicle, trailer, or RV longer than 30 feet in length counts as 2 vehicles, and that there shall be a maximum of 2 trailers on a residential property. So those were 2 things that Planning and Zoning recommended. We talked a little bit about width of driveways last time and some concerns with the driveway extensions. What we settled on with Planning and Zoning is instead of giving them a maximum allowance of 14 foot as an increase from today's 10 feet, we went with today's 10 feet plus the width of the overhang on the garage. So those situations where they had some trucks and taller vehicles that they couldn't get by the edge of their garage can be accommodated. We also added a couple of sketches in the ordinance for clarity where you would be allowed to move your driveway extension and not be contiguous to the garage for that situation as well. And then we also put on 2 points of measurements, so that really provides a little bit more clarity in that order. And then I believe that's not talked a little bit about business. In the business parking areas, there is an exception in here for Marshall County Fairgrounds related to parking on grass. There is also an exception in here related to businesses with a majority of sales being agricultural products with a site over 4 acres. If they're providing for sale of equipment, we have a couple of businesses here in town that they would be allowed to have on-grass parking, provided it's maintained, and I don't think we've had any nuisance violations with those businesses I'm referring to. There's also for a business only, there's an exception for group gatherings. Party club, receptions, meetings, and those kind of things where vehicles may be parked anywhere on the lot for a maximum of 8 hours, but not overnight. That would provide probably for some of the event spaces where they don't have enough parking on their site. And then lastly, the 2 items that were changed at the end of the section about enforcement. I'll turn the one over to Alicia, but the other one was because parking enforcement is now going to be partially moved to a joint code and enforcement position. Right now, the only people allowed to enforce parking is the police department, so that's been opened up in our ordinance language to allow parking and code enforcement officer also to enforce parking ordinances. And I'll turn it over to Alicia for the penalties.
And before she takes it, let's go ahead and field questions from the council first.
Thanks, Your Honor. Heather, you know my street, and I know Main Street by Woodbury School, and I'm sure there's others. There's no alternate street parking. So, but there's also no signs that tell the citizens that they have to move their car within 24 hours. So like on my street, the residents that live on Byron Street, we're close enough to walk downtown. My van, since there's no alternate parking, I don't have to move it. It sits a lot of times on the weekends or even weekdays. It sits for more than 24 hours in front of my house. So what are you going to sign that somehow, or what? Do I tell all the neighbors that you have to move it once a day, roll it forward 6 feet, or I mean, how do you want to handle situations like that?
This is not a change in our current ordinance. Our ordinance today prohibits parking over 24 hours. There is no signage. I guess it's word of mouth, and it's complaint driven a lot of times in those cases. In fact, I'm aware of a recent situation on your street where we did ask the police department to review a vehicle that we believed had parked there for weeks on end.
Well, yeah, the flat tires was a giveaway on that one. So
I'm just looking at this as a good, financial opportunity for the city.
I'll start parking it in the yard. And then, God, I lost the other question. I'll think of it. Go ahead, Alicia, I guess.
So I reviewed all the penalties and fees that were in the ordinance, and they are required to be set in the ordinance. We cannot have any parking fees set by resolution. So staff reviewed our current collection procedures on the standard parking citations. It's a $20 fine, and then a $5 late fee is added after 30 days. Snow ordinance is a $25 fine with a $10 late fee added after 30 days. Fire lane and yard parking are a $30 fine with a $5 late fee added after 30 days, and then handicap violations are a $100 fine, and there at this time is no late fee assessed. Staff spend a lot of time adding these fees and making changes to parking holds for vehicle registration, and it was recommended that we increase the late fee on all the citations to $15 after 60 days instead of 30 days, in hopes that maybe people would have more time to get their tickets paid, and with the higher late fee, it would encourage them to pay on time. And then we would also eliminate the current annual fee of $5 on any outstanding parking violation. So that would decrease the amount of time that staff have to deal with a single citation that is unpaid.
Question is for Alicia on the fine schedule. Public comment on this one? End of discussion? Okay, thank you.
I'm going to take that as everybody's okay with Alicia's proposed recommended changes on the penalty. This was a discussion item. This will be brought forth in 3 ordinance readings. My intent of going through some of the highlight points tonight was to eliminate the need to do that at the future readings and take questions at those meetings. Thank you.
Very good. I don't think you need a motion to direct staff to go forward. You got the assignment. And thanks again for planning and zoning for doing all the work that it does. That is now the time to call for a motion to go into closed session to discuss real estate because the closed session would be pursuant to section 21.5 subsection 1J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where the premature disclosure would reasonably be expected to increase the price that the government body would have to pay or reduce the price the government body would receive for it. And we do have an attorney-client relationship with Lynch Dallas PC by resolution. It doesn't really matter what the number or date was. There can be council action by motion following the closed session if directed by the city's attorney. Is there such a motion?
I'd make that motion, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Whitehouse.
Yes.
Mitchell. Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Kell.
Yes.
I declare we are in closed session.